Today's short haircuts have lots of different variations to them. Becky's hair is already short, but as you can see, there's a lot of bulk in through the sides. Last time it was cut, this side here and the outline in the back would have been quite a bit shorter. And I'm going to keep that. I want to use this feathery texture through here and here. And I'm also going to take an awful lot of the bulk out through the sides, through the top, and even in through the crown area. So we're going to come in pretty close all the way through the interior of the cut. During the consultation, always make sure that you really look at the hairline. And in this instance, there's a cowlick, and we're going to have to take that into account. But I do also want to take a lot of the weight out, and then I'm going to lighten in through here, maybe even slice into it a little bit. You know, when you change a haircut, it's not just the haircut that you're looking at changing, but it's the entire style. And what we're going to do as well is color the hair. Becky had her hair a little bit lighter for the summer, and for a heavier look, it almost gives it a lighter appearance in the texture. We're going to go in considerably closer, so I want to strengthen the overall look, and that means we're going to take it darker. So we'll start by doing a color splash, and then we'll come back and I'll give you more information and detail about the haircut. Well, we've completed our color splash and we're ready to start the haircut. Remember that volume on the sides? That's what I'm going to work with first of all, removing that. You always start the haircut at either the shortest or what will become the heaviest part, which in other words gives you your mass guide. In this instance, we're going to take sections in front of the ear and then work our way to the center back. As we take the sections and start to cut them, you'll see that we do not direct the hair fully forward, but as the arrows indicate here, we're also lifting the hair away from the head, so that increases the graduation. The intent with this haircut is to remove the bulk and to have more of a head shape. So in turn, that means we need to increase our graduation. And you can see that shown the way the arrows are coming away from the head rather than just going forward. The more forward you pull it, the more weight you have in the haircut. This process continues to the center back. Again, the more lift, the more graduation. And consequently, the more one emphasizes the head shape. There are certain features of the cut that we want to retain as they are now, and that's the softness in the front area, as well as the softness throughout the hairline in the back. So my first section is taken inside of the hairline. We do not lift up the very first section. We start on the interior of the cut. We'll come back and work with that area later. So my next section, picked up and then lifting that hair away and cutting onto the line. So immediately one starts the shorter graduation. And you can see when I comb that with the large teeth, the way that the hair is responding. It's starting to stand out a little bit more and give a stronger shape. Same thing, I take my next section, lift the hair. You'll also notice that in this instance, I'm cutting the hair on the outside of my finger. And that's just because it's more comfortable. If it's more comfortable for you to cut on the inside or palm to palm, then obviously you should use that system. Next section. It's interesting to take a head of hair like this that's already short and change the style of it dramatically. And that's exactly what we're accomplishing here, because in the interior, we're taking an awful lot of the weight out. You know, when the hair is maybe only 2.5 or 3 inches long, to be taking off over an inch is, after all, over a third of the overall length. We use the large teeth to comb the hair and see exactly how it's starting to react. And now I'm into the back. There is no separation. It starts in front of the ear, and as you can see in the diagram, it works its way to the center back. So as I come behind the ear, it's just a natural progression. As with all of my work, I use the large teeth for taking my sections and for checking and seeing how the hair is reacting. I find that when you use the large teeth, you don't interfere with the natural movement or strength of the hair, and it lets you read it so that you can make a decision as to the length and the shape that you're going to cut into it. Whereas when you use the small teeth, you are using it in order to achieve more discipline with the hair, to get it in exactly the tension and the manner in which you want it, the direction in which you want it prior to cutting. So the sections just naturally progress. Very important to keep the head exactly where you need it whilst you're working. You could see there that I was correcting the position of the head. Obviously, if you're doing that, it's well worth explaining to your client why you're doing it. Otherwise, they tend to feel, well, why are you moving me? Why are you putting me in a position that may, to an extent, be uncomfortable? So as long as you inform the client of the process of what's happening, they're going to work with you. Because after all, everybody is out to achieve the very best results that we can. So I'm starting to check the cut now and using the large teeth, combing the hair, and seeing exactly how it's reacting. That's really important on short graduation, because you may decide in your checking to take off a little more weight. So you want to see how the hair is reacting. You'll also notice that the hair I'm working on is damp, but the hair I've already cut is drier. And I want that hair to be drier. I want to see how it's reacting. If I keep the hair wet, it's much the same as using the small teeth. I won't really see what's happening with the natural pattern of the hair. Checking. It's the tiny amounts of hair that really make the difference between an okay haircut and a great haircut. And it's worth the attention to detail. So again, large teeth to take the section, then you'll see how the comb flips over, go to the smaller teeth so that I have that discipline in the hair, up to my guide and cut. You'll also notice that when I cut it, it's very close to the finger, right onto the skin. That way the hair is not moving in either direction, so I get a very accurate line. Always pick up a part of the section you've just cut, as that's what takes you to the next area. Cross-checking, working that into the haircut. Remember, we've got that longer back that we've been leaving out, and we're going to blend that in. So as we cross-check using the large teeth, we're making sure that the balance of the haircut is correct. See, combing the hair again in an upward direction so that the thatch or the texture in the hair really shows and is apparent. That's very important when you're around the crown area, because as you'll see later, with the finished haircut, the crown lays in perfectly. And you want to be very aware of that as you're working with it, because sometimes you need to actually graduate it a little bit more for the hair to sit the way you want it. Flick the comb, go to the small teeth for the first part of the section where I'm taking off the larger amount of hair, then flick the comb again, use the large teeth to see how the hair is developing. You know, it's all part of the mechanics of hair cutting. And when I hear about advanced work is simply a total understanding of the mechanics or the approach to hair cutting. Once you have that concept, once you've got a system of mechanics that will get you through any haircut, then you can do advanced haircuts, because after all, an advanced haircut is any cut that's done perfectly. That's about as advanced as you can get. A lot of weight coming off now through the top. And that's what really changes the entire shape. When you remove weight from one area, you don't only alter the area you're working in, but what else we're doing is altering the balance of the sides, those soft sides that we left, and altering the balance of the outline. Because when you've taken the bulk out, the balance of the entire haircut changes. So it actually exaggerates the length of those softer areas. Whereas in the beginning, the focal point was the bulk through the sides and the interior of the cut. When we finished, the overall head shape and the softer outline of what the focal points will be. Same thing as before, large teeth, checking the cut. Always working, making sure that before you go to the next area, you have indeed finished the area that you were working in. Now I use my brush just to take a final look at the texture and the shape before going to the other side. And the shape is really clean and strong, the haircut starting to develop. And we do repeat exactly the same technique on the other side. We start in front of the ear and we work our way to the middle and the back. Well, we finished the other side, and let's just take a look at the cut as it's developing. Very, very natural shape to it. You can see that all that weight has gone through the side and in through the back here. It's just all gone. We're ready to start the top sections. And we're going to take the guide of the previously cut side and top and use that as our guide to cut our sections in through the top. So we're taking the sections across from the side through the top of the hair, but not all the way to the other side on the top, because we're going to come in on both sides. So that's how we decide the shape of the top, because after all, we could then cut it longer into the center or squarer or even invert it. You'll notice with the arrows that the sections are being drawn towards the crown, but not fully back. In other words, we are graduating as we go forward. Remember, the more you pull the hair towards the crown, then the heavier or the more weight that you add in through the front sections. So it's the same principle that we used in the start point on the side. Each section becomes the guide to the next section, rather than the first section being the guide to the entire back. And we'll see that process right now. Again, I work with the hair damp, but not wet. I don't want to oversaturate it. It's very important at this point that I really do see how that texture, that natural finish is developing. Then as I pick my section up, you can see the guide and cut to it. It's at that point that I make the decision as to the shape of the top, because after all, I could cut longer in towards the center, or as I said, invert so it became even shorter. For this particular cut, it's fairly square. We're coming in just about the same shape right throughout the top, from one side to the other. There's my guide, cut down to it. At this point, it's very clear how much weight I'm removing from the haircut. In terms of the proportion of bulk, I would say it's over 50% of the original length through the top sections is being cut off at this point. When you are working with your client and she has short hair, you cannot just repeat the same haircut each time she comes in. If you do, inevitably, you will eventually lose the customer. They're going to try somebody else, because as with any other shape, it's okay once or twice, but give me something different. Today's client's really looking for alternatives. And yes, she wants alternatives in finish, but it's very important as well to give her alternatives in the cut. And it doesn't mean that every time you do it, you've got to go shorter. Actually, with this cut that we're doing today, even though we've taken an awful lot of the weight out of it, it won't look shorter. It will look softer because we've left the outline length and worked with that texture and softness throughout the outline. So we're going to give her a brand new shape, something that will put a fresh emphasis on the style, and at the same time that she's going to feel comfortable with, because we've not taken all of it in short. So you should always be looking for new ideas, alternatives. One of the places you're going to find those is constantly look through the magazines, stay up to date with what's going on, and not just what's going on with models in magazines, because many of them keep their hair long for the runways, but what's going on with the editorial stories, with people who are being featured in fashion magazines, because an awful lot of the time clothes designers or makeup artists, etc., have fabulous, very progressive looks that you should be aware of, and then you can adapt for your clients. You'll notice in the front section there, as I was working that hair, I was drawing it back, and that's what I meant about I want to retain the softness in the front. So as I worked my way forward, I started to pull the hair back, and that allows me to keep some of that length. And now I do exactly the same on the other side. And here we are, just shaping up the other side. Same process, cut from the side in towards the middle, and then I cross-check. We finished the basic shape. However, there is one more start point, and then we have to detail the haircut. Our final start point is in the back. Because remember, we were working into an existing haircut. We take a section down through the center in the back, and then we repeat that section, working our way out towards the ear. Exactly the same principle as the other two start points. You don't draw each section all the way to the center in the back. Rather, the first section becomes the guide for the second, and the second for the third, and so on. So that increases the graduation and adds texture and softness, and does not build excessive weight. Section through the center, comb the one side you're not working on well out of your way. I use the large teeth for that, and then I change to the small teeth before putting in the guideline or the cut line, because as we've mentioned, the small teeth give me the tension I'm looking for. Use the large teeth now to check and see exactly how the outline looks, then back to the small, bring it out to my guide, and again, cut. Trying not to take out too much at this point, because remember, that was one of the features we want to retain. You'll notice just how little water I used there. I was starting not to have quite enough control, so I apply a minimal amount of water. I want two things, control, but I also want to be able to see exactly how the hair's reacting, because I'm not going to be there for the next 6 weeks. That style is going to, what you give the customer in the cut is what she gets. So you want to be very careful that you are indeed working with the natural hairline, the natural jumps, and then you'll be assured of a perfect shape. Very, very little coming off here. Keep taking my sections over towards the ear. Obviously, when it stops being able to make it to your line, then you've already cut that in your previous start point where you started in the side and worked your way into the center in the back. See how I use the large teeth to check that? And now I'm going to start to texturize the hair down by the hairline. Use the large teeth, pick it up, cut. I'm not holding it in my hand because it's easier not to. So in this instance, I use a technique that makes the work easy for me, as I do in every other instance. Picking the hair up, lightening through the graduation, really just removing dust, but that dust is the difference in the shape on the exterior of the cut. If you cut it on the skin, you have a hard line. If you work with it in the comb or in your hands, you can soften the line. But once you cut a line on the skin itself, you're stuck with it. So I want to be careful to avoid that. In many ways, this is what will give you the opportunity of having a signature to your work, because lots of people can do this haircut, but nobody will quite finish it in the manner in which you do. So if you allow the time to put that detail into the finished shape, that's your signature. Now we do the other half using exactly the same process. Sections first, then scissor over comb. Well, we've done the detailing through this area here. I was very careful at the cowlick, and I'm ready to start on this side. Now I want to take weight out and length, but I want to do it gradually, so I do it scissor and comb. Very carefully work that section. Okay, now I've got my length. I just want to cut into it a little bit, which, as you can see, lightens it out all the more. Now we've got one last area, and that's through here, where we left our outline, and now we want to just lift the hair up and make sure that it blends. What I mean by blends is that it doesn't have a step in it, but I don't want to actually cut it as short as that first section that I took in the very beginning. And then I want to also check in here. You know, that waif look is not meant to be as clean around the outline, so be careful when you're working that you actually leave the softness. Just adding a little bit of texture. I can take a tiny bit more. Well, we finished the cut and we're ready to apply our shining solution. That's what we're going to use in this instance, but quite a bit. More than a drop. Work it right into the hair, all the way. You know, the most important thing with a short haircut is the fact that there are so many options and opportunities for you to create a very personalized look. And remember what we did here. We took an existing outline which had an awful lot of weight throughout the interior, and then we took all that weight out and giving her a very kind of 90s look. But we left all of this work and detailed it so it became a part of our haircut. And we finished.